Hey, Miss Marion here. We're going to go ahead and go through Unit 5, but the second part. So go ahead and get out your workbook and let's go ahead and do this together. So this was the jump start before. Don't worry about this. We already talked about it as far as explaining things that we know that are congruent in different things. All right, so our learning target today is I'm learning about congruent triangles. I know when I got it, when I can use the triangle congruency criteria to justify other properties of geometric figures. So again, we're learning about triangles, be able to apply it to other stuff. All right, page 56. Open up your workbook to page 56. All right, we're looking at part 2. It says, like Zach, you have done some experimentation with lines of symmetry as well as with rotational symmetry. In the task you did in lesson 6.5, symmetry of quadrilaterals, and 6.7 quadrilaterals, this is what we've done before, you made some observations about side, angles, and diagonals of various types of quadrilaterals, four-sided figures, right? Based on your experiments and knowledge about transformations. Many of these observations can be further justified based on looking for congruent triangles and their corresponding parts, just as Zach and Simone did in their work with isosceles triangles. Pick one of the following quadrilaterals, either a rhombus, which is a quadrilateral in which all sides are congruent. A rectangle is a quadrilateral that contains 4 right angles. And a square is both a rectangle and a rhombus together. A square contains 4 right angles and all the sides are congruent. Pick one of those 3, and then I'll show you what we're going to do in a bit. All right, number 6 on page 57. It says, draw an example of your selected quadrilateral with its diagonals. Label the vertices in the quadrilateral A, B, C, and D, and label the point of intersection of the 2 diagonals as point N. So go and draw either a rhombus, a rectangle, or a square. Okay, and once you've done that, come back to me. All right, so here is my rhombus. And notice how I have, so there's different pieces on this, so it will make sense in a second. So notice how this is my rhombus. I have A, B, C, and D. Notice how I have my diagonal, and then the point of intersection of the 2 diagonals is N. Notice how all sides are congruent. These 2 triangles, sets of triangles, are actually from the rhombus. So notice, here I'm going to get my highlighter, and notice how I have like this triangle and this triangle. That's these 2 pieces. Okay, and then we can also look and see 2 different other sides of triangles. So notice how I have this triangle and this triangle, and that's this set of triangles. So technically, we can actually make 4 different triangles within our rhombus because of our 2 diagonals and where they actually cross. All right, example number 7. Based on 1, your drawing, and 2, the giving information, your quadrilateral, and 3, information about sides and angles that you can gather based on the lines of reflection and rotational symmetry, list as many pairs of congruent triangles as you can find. So kind of like what I did before with my rhombus, you're going to do the same thing with number 7. So go ahead and pause, go do that, and then come back to me. All right, so again, here is my rhombus, right? And notice how, again, I can make 2 different types of pairs of triangles. You can also do this with a square and a rectangle. It's just going to look a tiny bit different. But again, remember remember how we got these 2 triangles, right? There are these 2. And then I got these 2 triangles. Those are the top 2. So we can actually take, again, the diagonal and make other triangles that go along with it. Here is also a square and a rectangle, right? So again, if you look at it, notice how I have like angle 3, and here's angle 3 up here, angle 5 and angle 5. So notice how these 2 triangles are congruent, and then these top 2 triangles are congruent, right? And we can also make bigger triangles, and then 2 sets of them. And then with the rectangles, same kind of information. I can make these two triangles are congruent. Top two triangles are congruent. Notice this big top one is congruent with the the big bottom one. And then notice how we can kind of make it, this top one is congruent to this bottom one. So notice how, again, with our quadrilaterals, whatever one you decided to do, and the diagonal that we have, we can make smaller triangles, and we can show which angles are congruent and which sides are congruent through the pieces of information that we have. All right, example 8. It says, for each pair of congruent triangles that you list, state the criterion you used, angle, side angle, or side, to determine that the two triangles are congruent, and explain how you know that the angles or the side requirements of the criterion are congruent. So notice how, so here is an example that we have. And so this kind of comes from some of the quadrilaterals that we went ahead and made, right? We have, let me erase that. I have this triangle, and it's showing that they are congruent. We did it on based on side. So what you need to know is RS is congruent to XY, ST is congruent to YZ, and TR is congruent to ZT. And then how do we know that? It is through the side criterion. And then this would be my triangle information. So you're going to do the same piece of information with your rhombus, rectangle, or square. You're going to have which angles are congruent, why is it congruent, and then this is the information that you would need to know. So try it, and then come back to me. So I decided to go ahead and kind of help you out. And remember that we had our quadrilateral, so we have ABD and then CDB, okay? These would be the two triangles, or two sets of triangles that we're looking at. Again, what would be your criterion, and then what would be the reason why. So this is kind of what I would do on page 58. So again, kind of try it again, see what you can see. All right, this is the information that we should have gotten as far as showing that two triangles are congruent and what the information can give us. So a lot of it, because we are dealing with a rhombus, a square, or a rectangle, our criterion, or the reason why we're doing this, is because of side. So if you want to go ahead and write this down on page 58, I am totally fine with that, because this is the information that we're looking for. So pause this, write it down in your workbook. All right, so a combination of yesterday and today, these are the takeaways. So turn to page 59. It says, today I learned several strategies for working with diagrams to prove statements about congruency, such as, if I can show two triangles are congruent using a triangle congruent, either side, side angle side, or angle side angle, then I can also claim that the other sides of angles of the triangle are congruent, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So I can take that triangle, I can move it onto another triangle, and I can say, yes, these are congruent because they are copy-paste kind of thing. They're exactly the same. So the angles are together, and then the sides would be together. That's what it means by congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Next, I may be able to decompose a geometric figure. So I can break it into smaller pieces. And I can break them into congruent triangles, kind of like how I did with my rhombus. You might have done it with a square or a rectangle, by adding an auxiliary line. Remember that auxiliary line is that line of symmetry. And we did that yesterday with our triangles. So make sure you have this written down, and then come back. Moving on, it is also helpful to redraw overlapping triangles while also keeping track of congruent parts of making them on the individual triangle. I can use the fact that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent to show that other parts of parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, or square are also congruent. And then I need to write triangle congruency statements so that corresponding vertices are listed in the same position. So it's kind of like what we've been doing the last week. We've been saying, oh, I have this angle and this side, these two sides are congruent, and how we've been kind of showing where those points go. Same kind of thing. We're just writing all this information down in our workbook. So make sure you pause, write it down, and then come back to me. All right, so we are ready for our homework. I know this lesson was short and sweet, so make sure you do Ready, Set, Go for lesson 5. You can find it in Canvas. You can be working on missing assignments. Make sure you do your other stuff, and especially if you need a compass, grab one and go ahead and do all your missing assignments also. All right, thanks. Have a good day. Bye.